Just want to talk for a few minutes about this thing that's been going on with Oliver Anthony, the Men North of Richmond musician, and how he's been in the news the last few weeks. And I saw what was happening with him, and I normally don't comment on these sorts of things just because they sometimes involve politics, and, people get really sensitive about politics. But just know I'm coming from this, from a neutral standpoint, okay? So this thing started with Oliver Anthony talking about, basically about his song, Men North of Richmond, and different websites started using his name and image and story in lots of different articles. And it built up more and more. And that might sometimes give the view that, a subject being covered that much is being covered due to newsworthiness. And what was happening, and I saw it happening because I'm a reporter on another website during the day. This is my personal YouTube channel. What was happening was, his song is great. He has a great voice. I'm not saying anything about that. What I'm saying is that he started trending. And he started trending like in Google Trends, that sort of thing. On Google Trends, it shows the top trends of the day. And there are a lot of publishers out there that try to cover those top trends, even if there's no news about it. So a lot of them started publishing, the initial articles about, hey, here's this guy, he has this song. And then they kept going and trying to get every little tidbit and writing a new article about a tiny little tidbit they found about him, or this or that, trying to latch on to him and he's kind of like a train that's going down the tracks really fast, and all the publishers are trying to grab onto the train to kind of ride his wave of popularity and try to capitalize on that popularity for whatever it is they're doing. Not just publishers, but grifters on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And they wanted to use him and whatever was going on with him with this song for their own gain. And I saw this was happening, and I said, you know what, well, that's just, it's going to happen. This happens with lots of different subjects in the news. And what happened today is that he put out a new video on his YouTube channel, and he said, first off, go watch the video. I'm going to link it down below. But if I had to summarize it a little bit, what he said was that his song was being misinterpreted, and that there were news outlets. He mentions conservative news first and prominently, and he also mentions left-wing websites, left-wing, minded people taking his words in his song and things about him in a way that they didn't quite understand exactly what he was trying to put across. He called out the Republican debate the other night for using his song, and he said something to the effect of his song was about the people on the stage. And so I'm mentioning these things. I mentioned conservative. I mentioned the left as well. So I'm not attacking one side or the other. I'm just telling you what he said. So don't come after me for saying something about politics. Just being very careful here, because I know some people are very sensitive about this sort of thing. But Oliver Anthony basically called out people who were trying to ride his wave of what I think he maybe said relevancy. And it was so refreshing to see him realize what was going on, because a lot of the time when this sort of thing happens to people, they don't really realize what's happening and why they're being covered so much in the news by all these different websites. It's because a lot of these websites are not necessarily covering it because it's newsworthy. Again, I'm telling you, his voice is great. His song has, very interesting lyrics. I'm not saying anything about that. But people, whether they're, like I said, they're grifters on X or they're publishers for political websites, and he mentioned conservative news, and again, he mentioned also some left-wing stuff. He specifically mentioned conservative news prominently. He said that they were using him for, just go watch the video to get his exact words. I don't want to say specific words, adjectives, and act like he used those. The best sources are his own words, right? I think that when he recorded this new video today in a truck, you could tell it was like an old truck, a pretty cool looking truck, and the rain hitting as he starts talking, it felt very dramatic because he was really trying to open up and talk about everything that's been happening to him over the last few days, last few weeks, I guess it's been. And to see him come out and realize what was going on and what publishers and grifters were doing to try to ride his wave of relevancy, or like I use the train analogy, try to jump on the train just to get whatever they could, they're going to dump him off the side of the road. These people who are using his song and everything and talking about him. They're going to dump him off the side of the road like a piece of garbage as soon as he's no longer trending. And, that I've seen that happen so many times before. I'm so glad he realized this. I'm so glad that he called them out. And it's so good to see an example of, the media. And I'm not like the mainstream media. I'm not being one of I'm not doing that sort of thing. I'm just talking about just the news out there. Not all news organizations, but the ones that get maybe the most readers because they're the most sensational with their headlines, that sort of thing. It's good to see them get called out. I'm so glad he did it. And so, I had a experience with this before myself a little bit, where I took my video camera in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and the video's here on my channel. It's called Tennessee Wonderland. I took my video camera back then. This is 2013, I think. And I went to the Elkmont area of the park. And in the Elkmont area of the park, there are these old houses. You can drive right up, and I think now you can actually walk in and look at some of them. And it's an interesting area. I didn't take my camera necessarily just there, though. That wasn't the main focus. I went to a place half a mile to a mile away from there, where most people going to Elkmont do not go. And it's the Wonderland Hotel area. The annex was still there. The hotel was gone by that point. I think by now, the annex burned down. Some of the other houses are gone. And what I documented is no longer there. But I put the video online because I wanted to show people what I found. And, I said, look, I was walking around and I discovered this on my walk. And people took me saying discovered like I found this town that had been hidden in the woods for 100 years because Daily Mail and I think Huffington Post acted like that's what I said. But if you watch my video, near the very end of the video, I have all this information about the history of the grounds where the hotel and the houses used to be. And I talk about how, I think the last house leases ended in 1992 or 2001. So obviously I didn't find a 100-year-old town. I completely spelled all that stuff out. But these clickbait, tabloid kind of websites, and specifically talking about Daily Mail, decided to make up a more sensational story. And they saw that, I guess this was trending, hiker discovers small town, or hiker discovers town, Tennessee, or whatever was trending. All these websites started covering it. And I felt great at first about the ones that were covering it. Honestly, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm getting all this coverage. This is awesome. And it's only now that I realized they were only covering that to that extent. All those websites, 20, 30, 40, 50 websites, 80 maybe, I can't remember how many there was, big name publishers, they were covering it because it was a hot topic. It was trending. And as soon as the last story came out, a big bunch of stories, you never heard about it ever again in the news. And there were the ones that got the story wrong, like Daily Mail, Huffington Post that I mentioned, and that was unfortunate. But these kinds of websites, they seize on a hot topic, whether or not it's newsworthy. And what I documented was not really newsworthy. It was just like, hey, here's an interesting area in Great Smoky Mountains National Park where there used to be a hotel and there are these old vacation houses. I mean, that's not news. So what happened was they latch onto the trending topic, just like they did with Oliver Anthony. And that's what a lot of websites do. And, you got to make money, I guess. You got to get some traffic to your websites. But when it comes to a person being covered, like I was being covered, and Oliver Anthony obviously to a much greater extent. I'm not comparing myself to him in terms of what I did versus his song. I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to use two different stories here for a small comparison, I guess. These sorts of websites will dump you off on the side of the road if you're no longer trending, is what I'm getting to. And I said this many times, I think, in this video already, but it's so great to see that Oliver Anthony recognized that and called them out. I just wish it wasn't on a Friday whenever this might get a little bit lost in the news. If it was like on Monday or Tuesday, that'd be amazing. But this is good to know going forward that he can recognize what's going on, and that he even said at the end of the video, he started tearing up. It was really emotional. He said, if I have to start, and I'm paraphrasing, if I have to start explaining all my lyrics so that people don't start, keep taking them out of context or using them for political purposes, whether left or right, whatever it may be, then he might have to do that, is what he said, I think. So what a refreshing video to see today. Go check it out. I'll link to it down below. I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think I have a little bit of perspective about the whole trending Google Trends thing. And if you never use Google Trends, it's trends.google.com. And if you want to see like what's trending about your town, if you live in like Chicago or New York or LA or some larger area where there would be trends, you can see what's trending. It's kind of cool. You can sort it by 1 day, 4 hours, 1 hour, whatever it may be. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching.